Hello everyone, and welcome to this presentation on the Flux organization strategy. My name is Daithí and I'm a member in Western Australia. I also am the chair of the National Steerco and I sit on the foundation with Max and Nathan. This presentation is primarily to give everyone an overview on what the organizational strategy is moving forward, and so that people will understand how all of the different parts of what we're trying to do at Flux behind the scenes will all fit together. So you'll see the title of this presentation is called Making People Work for Democracy and Making Democracy Work for People. And this is part of the key idea that for Flux to work as a concept and for us to make this happen, it's going to involve us getting people involved and people working on this project so that we can actually make our democracy work again. So today I'm going to bring us through an overview of the strategy. And as it currently stands, the strategy addresses four main objectives. The first being to make issue-based direct democracy, or IBDD as we know it, famous. As in bringing issue-based direct democracy to a mainstream audience. The second aspect or objective of our strategy is to enhance Flux as an organization. And this will be all about the things that we need to do to make our organization behind the scenes work efficiently so that we can actually implement on all of the things that we want to do. The third key objective is developing our membership base, because without our members, a concept like Flux doesn't really mean much. And the fourth objective involves us competing in election campaigns. Now, all of the slides and documents referenced today can be found at our document repository at docs.flux.party. And if you go on there and you just search for Flux org strategy or something along those lines, you should be able to find all of these materials. Now, it should be stated from the start that this organizational strategy, this is our starting point at the moment, and it will always be considered a work in progress. The primary focus of this strategy is to bring alignment among the federal and state branches, the National Steerco, the working groups, and anybody who wants to get involved in helping Flux in Australia or abroad. So I put it to people that take this document as a live document. It's not the be all and end all of everything that will ever happen in Flux. It's where we're starting now, and it's designed to get people onto the same page. The National Steerco will remain responsible for the strategy, but we encourage all members to contribute to the ongoing development of this strategy by getting involved in your local state group or via the working groups. So who is this presentation and this strategy intended for? Well, it's intended for a lot of different groups. At the broadest level, it's for the general public or people who are just getting on board with Flux and who want to get to know us a little bit better and what we're about. It's also going to be relevant for Flux members so that they can stay informed of what it is we're trying to do. For people who are looking to volunteer, it'll give you a bit of a broader context on all the different areas in which you can get involved and how you would be able to apply your special and specific skills to help in Flux. Once people get involved and start volunteering, we'll be forming people into working groups. And for the working groups, this strategy can provide the starting point and high-level guidance for the tasks that the working groups will need to carry out. And at a higher level for the state parties, it'll give everyone an understanding of all of the common work that we need to do to start working together to make this happen. So the first aspect of the strategy is around making issue-based direct democracy famous. And as I said, bringing IBDD to a mainstream audience and making it a mainstream concept so that it's not just this idea that people are encountering for the first time. Now, there'll be a number of things that we'll need to do as part of this. The first and the most simple aspect of this is share the idea, philosophy, and stories. So this is all about just going out there and having conversations with people, setting up informal meetings, just really getting out there and bringing the Flux idea to people who haven't encountered it before. As we encounter people, we're going to find a number of things happen. Some people will accept the idea and will be on board, and that will be a great encouragement for us. But we'll also encounter people who reject the idea, and that should inspire us to refine the way that we think about how we communicate this, and to refine the approach and delivery that we take. And this is relevant to all members of Flux. So anybody who's involved in Flux, this aspect of the strategy is relevant for you. Comms and marketing, many voices, but the same vision. We need to make communications a high visibility priority in the organization. And the way that we'll do this is by finding the people who come to our organization who have the skills, the specific skills needed to drive a communication strategy. We've got a very unique brand, and we want to develop Flux into an iconic movement by utilizing that brand. This will involve things like working with artists and creatives and people with a variety of different media and communication and marketing skills to really develop and display the Flux brand in a way that can really get out there into the mainstream audiences. The people who will be primarily tasked with this will be people around the engagement working group. An aspect of our strategy involves supporting aligned ideas and movements. So there's a number of other groups out there who are promoting ideas similar to issue-based direct democracy, and they will be our natural allies as we all go on this journey. So we'll look to gain support by strategically aligning with some of these groups, where we'll find that both of our objectives are served by helping each other. So we'll look to identify, engage, and align with some of these organizations and democracy movements so that we can have mutual benefit for our causes. Now, I will state, for self-preservation, we'll remain open yet prudent to the causes that we align ourselves with. And this aspect of the strategy will be the task associated with the National Steerco, the state parties, and the engagement working group to carry this forward. Education. So because issue-based direct democracy is such a new idea, we've got a huge task ahead of us in terms of how we educate people and communicate this. So a big part of our strategy will involve bringing people on an educational journey that utilizes all suitable pedagogical methods, or in other words, just finding the most suitable way for us to communicate and educate people, because we recognize that there's people who have different ways of perceiving the world, and we need to ensure that we make our organization as easily accessible for people as possible. So we'll educate our members, and hopefully in turn they can educate others. And there will be a specific working group, the education working group, who will be tasked with this specific aspect of the strategy. The second lever of the strategy is all about enhancing Flux as an organization, so that we develop our internal capabilities as well as our ability to engage with the external audience and the people outside of Flux. Now, the first aspect of this is all about creating structures to enable scaling. So that means setting up our state branches, working groups, and steercos to ensure that we have accountability, alignment, communication, coordination, guidance, and appropriate decision-making across the whole organization. This is really just ensuring that our organization is appropriately structured to do what it is we need to do, so that we have all of the groups set up and empowered and aware of what they need to do so we can address all of our strategic objectives. This will be primarily the task of the National Steerco and the state branches to ensure that this structure is put in place. Our constitutions must be robust and fit for purpose. So our constitutions are a very important aspect of what it is we're trying to do, because the constitutions will form the framework for us to fall back on when we lose our way, or when there's a decision that needs to be made. And we need to ensure that the constitutions are fit for purpose. And this is a task that will evolve over time, but will be primarily the responsibility of the National Steerco and the admin working group. The Flux app, the app that we're all sure can help us bring a little bit more of a sophisticated way of engaging with our political process. We'll work with technology partners to ensure that we deliver a robust and reliable solution. So we'll do things like work on the development of the user experience. We'll be involved in testing and onboarding users into the Flux ecosystem, just really to ensure that the app, when we bring it to the world, will be ready for the challenges ahead. Now, there will be a working group tasked with all things related to this, and it will be the technology work group. So if you have the skills or the expertise to help with the development of the app in one of these ways, I would encourage you to reach out to the technology working group and get involved. Documentation. Sadly, documentation is a required part of what it is we're doing. It really is not the most exciting aspect of what we're trying to do, but if we don't document what it is we're doing along the way, we're going to lose an awful lot of the momentum as new people come on board. So we should document all of our meetings and processes to promote transparency, but mostly to facilitate learning for our new members. And as people come to Flux for the first time, they'll have somewhere that they can go to really get up to speed with everything we're doing. So we have a document repository currently at docs.flux.party. And I encourage people to check that out. And that's what we will use for now. But as time, we will continue to find the best way to manage documentation within the organization. And this will be primarily the task of the admin working group. So if you have a penchant for documentation and writing documentation or drawing diagrams or anything like this, I encourage you to reach out to the admin working group to get involved, because this is a really important aspect to ensure that our organization is able to grow. We will work with the Flux Foundation to share Flux and issue-based direct democracy with the world. So we're starting in Australia. This idea is starting and is grounded in the organization we have in Australia, but we already have a lot of people in other countries reaching out to us, asking them to help us implement something similar with them. And as we develop our capabilities, we will do our best to work with the Flux Foundation to help people who are in other countries who want to set up similar parties and organizations. But this will remain primarily a task of the National Steerco to manage for the time being. Funding, money, money, money. So this is going to be a huge part of what it is we need to do. We really need to develop our ability to create multiple income streams to finance the expenses associated with running our political organization. At the moment, we're very lightweight. It's all volunteer based, and people giving up their time and people reaching into their own pockets to ensure that we're able to, print materials, book meeting rooms, do things like hosting and all the expenses associated with running with our party. It's all just coming out of dedicated volunteers' pockets at the moment, and we need to find a way to be more sustainable. So our primary opportunity to obtain a sustainable source of funding will come from our existing membership base, because they know who we are and what we're doing and what we're about. And we would hope that they would be the first people we could convince to invest in what we're doing. We'll also reach out to people who have deep pockets, who support our idea. There's lots of people out there who have the means to support our organization, and we just need to ensure that we make the case to them in a way that works for them via things like tax-deductible donations. We'll also look to identify and apply for all the available public funding, grants and sponsorships that are legally available to us. And all of this work will be the remit of the Finance Working Group. Our social media, being online and on point. Our social media will be a key part of developing our internal and externally facing abilities. So we'll just need to ensure that we develop our social media presence in a manner that befits the long-term intentions of what we're doing. And this will be a combination of the engagement working group, who will work with engaging our members, and also the awareness working group, who will be responsible primarily for our externally facing media and communications. The traditional media. We will pursue and seduce the mainstream media with our idea and what we stand for. So this will again be the remit of the engagement working group and the awareness working group, to ensure that we're getting out there and communicating with traditional media. We must look to engage the thought leaders who are out there in academia, journalism, and just people who are generating content that goes up online and that exists in the public realm. So we'll look to engage with university departments, research groups, and to ensure that Flux and issue-based direct democracy is being considered by all of the people who are having these conversations and who are leading the discussion in the public sphere around all things to do with direct democracy and so forth. So we'll also look to reach out to content creators, so people who are writing blogs, writing articles, creating videos, who have YouTube channels, all of these people, to ensure that we provide them with information and context, so they can, so they can help us express what it is we're trying to do. The next aspect, and for me, one of the really most important parts of what we need to do, is develop our membership base, because our members are our most valuable asset. If we are going to progress a philosophy that is based on a participatory democracy, we need to ensure that our members are looked after and are educated, and are engaged and want to be part of what it is we're doing. Because without our members, none of this works. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to boost our numbers, create a movement of millions. So we're already growing at a huge rate, often faster than we can keep up with, because we want, as every new member comes on board, we want to ensure that we embrace them and welcome them into the movement. So we'll look to continually grow our membership numbers with general membership drives and targeted membership drives, particularly around election time. And when people join, we need to ensure that they're onboarded appropriately into our organization, and to really give them a good start to the story that they'll ultimately tell their grandkids. And so for us to do that, what we need to do is we need to refine our onboarding process to ensure that we're connecting with our new members and bringing conversation to active volunteers, sharing messages, and really just, as people come to us excited and enthusiastic, that we meet them with the same level of energy and enthusiasm, and are able to direct them to harness their enthusiasm, so that we can actually get them to contribute in the ways that they want to contribute. We need to also work on increasing our engagement with our members. So we need to ensure that our members are consistently informed with relevant information that's relevant to them and events that are in their locality and all things to do with Flux and issue-based direct democracy in general. And this will be the work that will be tasked to the engagement working group, the awareness working group, and the education working group, just to ensure that we're constantly engaging with our members and ensuring that we're giving them something that they can actually relate to. Geographic outreach is a huge part of what we will need to do to be successful in Australia. The majority of the population in Australia lives in the urban and metro centres, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be setting up and reaching out to the people in the regional areas and in those towns and smaller cities that aren't our state capitals. And we will work really hard to ensure that Flux is relevant outside the state capitals and in rural areas. We have to ensure that we are inclusive for all Australians. Community and connection, because we're all in this together. At the end of the day, we're all people who are coming to this idea and who see a way to do something better. And we must work together to build the bridges and enhance this spirit of community so that we can solve these problems. The problems that we're looking to solve here are not easy problems, and we will have to start with a grounding in respect and connection and community. And so we have to ensure that we foster a spirit of communal effort, welcome all people who want to participate in our democracy. We must be respectful. We must be seen to be responsible civic citizens by being out there in the community, holding local events, interstate events, and ultimately encouraging all of our members to reach out to each other and to create those connections, like meet each other as humans. We're all part of Flux, but we're all people at the end of the day. And this for me, if I do nothing else as part of my time with Flux, I hope that we can build a stronger community and connection with each other, because that's the only way we're going to make any progress. The final lever, or the final aspect of this organizational strategy, is all about how we will compete in election campaigns, or as we say, working within the system to change the system. So to do that, we'll need to ensure that when election campaigns come along, that we're able to do proper campaign management. We have to be in it to win it. As such, we'll ensure that we bring the best practices to election campaigns, sharing information, strategy, and plans and our resources across states. And wherever possible, we need to ensure that local campaigns are led by the people in the relevant electorates and communities. We really want to be an organization that is decentralized and empowering people at the grassroots level. And that's how we will aim to run our campaigns. A big part of our campaigns as well will be ensuring that we put our best foot forward, or our best feet forward, in that ensuring that our candidates, when they're put forward, are set up for success. We need to ensure that our candidates are given all the tools and resources and training that they need. And we need to ensure that we select the best people and that we develop these people into being candidates that are suitable to bring Flux to a wider audience. This will be primarily the task of the campaigns working groups, the state branches, the relevant state branches where the candidates are, and also the national Steerco. So that's a high-level overview of all of the things that we need to do as an organization. As I said at the start, the purpose of this presentation is to give you an idea of all of the different things that we need to do, so that you can have an idea as to where you might be able to fit in if you want to volunteer, or if you know somebody who wants to volunteer, or if you have ideas about things that need to be done, you'll see what it is we're doing. And I'll just leave you with these messages about why Flux and why issue-based direct democracy. And one of the catchphrases that I use now is because our issues are more important than your ideology. Our political system is currently constrained by party political ideology. And we struggle for the issues to rise above that ideology sometimes. And that's not good enough. That's holding us back. And the second aspect, the second catchphrase that I use now is because none of us are smarter than all of us. We're all on an individual level very smart and intelligent people. But when we bring our smarts and intelligence together, we'll be able to solve problems that up to now we haven't been able to solve. So I'm just going to leave you with this final screen with our main website, voteflux.org, where we encourage you to send people to if they're looking for more information about Flux. And to remind you of our document repository that is still a work in progress that we will develop over time, but which we will hope will become the publicly facing central source of truth in relation to all things Flux. And that's currently at docs.flux.party. If you have any questions about any of the materials that's contained here, feel free to email us at leadership@voteflux.org. Get involved, reach out to us on Twitter, on Facebook. We have a Slack channel. All of these communication channels are available and listed on the website. But I hope that I've been able to provide people with a brief overview of all of the things that we want to do. If some of this has spoken to you, I encourage you to reach out to your local branch and get involved. And if you really want to get involved and make a difference, I encourage people to look into our working groups and to join the working groups, because that's where the real work will be done. I wish you all the best. Thank you for taking the time to watch this presentation, and I will see you all in due course. Thank you.